Hi everyone, welcome to Casting Cauldron. Welcome back. If you are new here, my name is Sabrina. I am a traditional witch. Now I'm going to make a disclaimer here because of some really bad things that have been going on within our magical community, and that is that if you are not knowledgeable and you are not sincerely here to learn about nature-based religion, alternative religion, witchcraft, and the purpose of transformation and using our mind and our imagination to help ourselves heal and to help ourselves improve our circumstances. And some of the things that I might talk about could trigger you to leave an insult. You're not really here to sincerely learn, or the video does not pertain to you. I'm going to have to ask you to click away at this time because we do not need to suffer any negative comments. All right, that being said, jeez. I had a viewer ask me if I could talk about my favorite grimoire or my first grimoire, and have I worked with the Grimoire Vera. Now, I made a video the other day, but I deleted it because I think I can do better. So I'm going to very briefly talk about the grimoire that I have worked with, the Key of Solomon. Now, I was led to other books before I felt I should pick up the Key of Solomon. And the very first book that I remember really being led to at Barnes & Noble was this one, Magic for Beginners by J.H. Brennan. It's very good. It talks about some personal experiences he had being in a magical community, what magic is, how it works, why it works, and introduced me to a very simple form of ceremonial magic, where I would stand and call the angels at the four quarters, visualize them, and I would make a circle with my incense, and I would be facing east with my pentagram, which was on the east wall of the bedroom, and it was strung in some clear Christmas lights with a green wire, and my altar was right there. So, and then I would give my recitations after calling the quarters, and actually made up my own little saying for each quarter. Let's see if I can remember. I remember the west. Blessed is the west and the water that cleanses and quenches thirst. Come, Gabriel, or welcome, Gabriel. So I made up my own little meaning for each element. I did that for, I don't know, maybe 6 months or 7 months, and I had some wonderful, interesting experiences. And then I was led to another book called The Wisdom of the Mystic Masters. That's also a very good book. Let me see if I can find it here. Finally got my bookshelf very neatly organized. Oh, and I finally got my second door screwed on. It is a pink book, and it's written by a man who was a Rosicrucian. Wisdom of the Mystic Masters. I can't find it. So the next thing that I was led to was the Key of Solomon. Now, this is something that my father had tried to go through and read. He had a sword. He had the implements. When I was about 10 years old, he would lock the door to our apartment. I'd be on the floor looking under the door, and I could see that he had a sword and he was kneeling, and I was scared because at that time I'd been going to my great aunt and uncle's house for the summers and the holidays to give my parents a break, and they were Christians, so I had to go to Christian church a lot, and I got scared, you know. I thought, why is the door locked? And I would ask him, Daddy, what are you doing? I'll be done in a minute. I said, I can't sit out here in the hallway. Let me in. So he'd have to stop and open the door and let me in. I'm like, what are you doing? You know, he tried to explain to me the best way he could. These are psychological tools. You know, what are you trying to do? I don't remember what he said. But I believe that he was trying to understand ways to access other dimensions that could help him, you know, and guide him. He was managing his mother's apartment buildings and working at night as a musician, and it was very difficult. So here I am years later, deciding I'm going to try to read it, and maybe my father can assist me. And I think he tries to assist me with whatever it was that he learned. What I learned was that I began to understand what he was talking about very well because I had met a spirit guide. And he does talk about here on page 7 the importance of having a spirit, knowledge of your spirit guardian. There's also a table of the planetary hours. Now, I found this book to be incredibly lengthy and complicated. And because I had already read Magic for Beginners, I felt like I'm not really sure this has to be so complicated, you know? Even if you're not a medium, I don't think you have to really go through all of these orations. Okay, now I did have a habit of taking a shower and putting on black clothes before I went to call the quarters. But I eventually decided that the most valuable, interesting thing for me was learning about the metals, the pentacles, and the manner of consecrating them. So I started creating talismans out of wooden keychains from Hobby Lobby. And I really didn't make them that complicated. I just put the planetary symbol on the wood. I would color the wood one color, and then I would color the symbol the other color. So for Jupiter, I had an orange wooden talisman with a blue symbol of Jupiter on it. That was it. My talismans were very simple. And it's interesting to really read all of the different chapters and look at all of the different talismans, which of course, for the most part, are very powerful symbols. And yeah, the prayers, no, I couldn't do all that. I just couldn't. But there's a lot of good chapters in here about, let's see, concerning the silken cloth, concerning the magical book, consecration of the magical book, concerning hours, concerning sacrifices to the spirits and how they should be made. He does have instructions on how to, like, take a lancet and prick the vein of a bat or something, or a rabbit. But there is a footnote by the author who very strongly suggests against it. And some people say he was just kind of trying to protect himself, I guess, for, you know, in those days. His name was S. Liddell McGregor Mathers. And I believe he might have been one of the top people in the Golden Dawn. Forward by R.A. Gilbert. I believe this is actually the second translation of the Key of Solomon. I do think it's a very good book to go through. I think it's wonderful to learn how to create these talismans. Now there's another book. It's not a grimoire, but it's by Silver Raven Wolf. It's called Angels, and she has a chapter in here about creating talismans. And it is from this book that I actually sat down and created one of the most powerful talismans that I now have. And it is called a hybrid talisman for Saturn. So, and you can do that. Instead of making 4 talismans for Jupiter, you can make one, divide it into 4 parts, and put the symbols for each angel or the square, you know, the planetary square, right? Very powerful. Very powerful, guys. The more that you use your talisman, the more powerful you and it becomes. It just develops a stronger connection. Here's one that you could consider a hybrid talisman. She has symbols on one side here, and then she has the square here. And this could be made out of paper, and you would put it in a pin. You could pin it to yourself or in your purse. Or I guess you could have, I don't know what she says. You'll have to read it. Let's see. Talisman of Mars. Yeah, she does also talk about metals. Now, if you want to cover your talisman in metal, you could go to Hobby Lobby and get some gold leaf for the sun talisman, silver leaf for the moon talisman, copper leaf for the Venus talisman. I just remembered a story I'm going to tell you. I think Spirit wants me to tell you. My Venus talisman I placed at the base of my water goblet, and I left it there for a couple of weeks. When it went back to retrieve it, it had some silver around the edge of it. Let me go get it. Okay, I've showed this before. I keep my spirits in the jar, right? And you can use a brass jewelry box to put your sigils, your talismans, your pentacles in. I have a pencil box. And I took my children's baby socks and I cut them to put them, you know, in protection. All right, here is my hybrid talisman for Saturn. Now, this is not for the novice, guys, okay? I'm an advanced practitioner, but this is an example of a hybrid talisman. And I worked at my altar on a Saturday. I think it was the hour of Saturn. Okay, so for Venus, see, I've got all my markers in here, and I've got paper sigil for Astarte. All right. Baby sock. Venus. Ta-da! A wooden keychain, pink with green. Now, after a few weeks when I went to retrieve it, there was this silver stuff around the edges. Look at that. I've never taken it to a laboratory. I'd like to do that one day to find out what it is. But I'm not really a fan of a silver ink or anything, so I did not have. Did I? Yeah, here's a silver pencil. But I really don't believe that my son would go into my bedroom and do anything on my altar. My husband didn't really allow it. He didn't want the kids to be really messing near the altar. So it's highly unlikely that my son would just go and do that. And I asked him and he said no. So I took it as meaning that number one, your altar is your heart of power. It's a portal to the other dimensions. And the silver is also a representation of the moon. My goblet was blue and it had water in it, and it also was on the west side of my altar. So I think it would probably correspond to silver being another metal, I think, for Venus. I do have an ankh that's made out of pure silver, almost entirely pure silver. So that's very interesting. Generally, it's considered copper. Copper is a very good conductor of electricity, but I think silver is too. So you'll have to let me know if you've ever experimented with silver for working with Venus in any way. But that's what I have to share with you today. I hope that you found this interesting or helpful. Please like, share, and subscribe. And I will see you on the next video.